5.
All big changes start with a swift kick in the ass. Join the journey of lifelong friends, John Curran and Tom Stewart, as they make conventional thought bend over and take a boot to the keister. Warning, listeners may notice a force equal to or greater than needed to get your ass moving. A swift kick in the ass. Living life on your terms.
Welcome back to A Swift Kick in the Ass, episode 5. This is Tom Stewart. I'm joined with my lifelong friend, John Curran, and we're going to discuss a few changes that we have coming up in the show. And one of them is going to be that we're going to start interviewing guests. Not starting this episode, but we want to throw the invite out to any one of our listeners, because the whole premise now that we're going to be focusing on is ordinary people, extraordinary change. John?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense to move in that direction. I know that when I was going through some rough times financially, I listened to the Dave Ramsey Show. And I heard a lot of people calling in, talking about their troubles, but not just about their troubles, about how they were getting out of them. And it was very positive for me to recognize that I was not the only one having these type of issues. And there were a lot of people that were much worse off than I was. And they were actually getting traction and accomplishing what they set out to do. So I think that the intent of the Swift Kick in the Ass is to be positive and to help people move in the positive direction. So it makes sense to do this.
Right, and it's one of those things I've always discussed with you. One of the first thing when we first started talking about doing a podcast is I had told you about this thing on, I think it was 2020, where the guy used to take a dart and he would throw it over his shoulder and it would land on the dartboard, and then on that dartboard he had it was a map of the United States. So wherever that map was, he'd go to that city that the dart landed to, then he'd find a random payphone and go to the phone book there, which payphones are pretty hard to find now, so this was back in the late 90s. And he would randomly pick out a name, and he would go interview that person just like they were a celebrity. And the stories that these people would tell, just be out in some podunk farm in the middle of Idaho, they all had a story to tell. And I think that's true. I think everyone has a story, and I think that everyone has wisdom that everyday man or woman could share, and talk about how they changed things in their life or how they overcame obstacles. And I think they can help us to learn and share with our audience.
Yeah, I think as long as mankind has been around, the question of life and what that means has been asked. And this is an opportunity to find out what life means to just the ordinary average person off the street. I think in today's world, we see a lot of celebrities out. We see the movie stars, the TV stars, all these different personalities, and how they live their life. And I think it makes us all feel a bit inadequate, because I don't have a 210-foot yacht. I'm not traveling around the world. I'm not wearing the designer clothes that only people with oodles of money can buy. But I have a great life. I love my life. And I know that there are a lot of other people out there who are experiencing the same type of thing. We're not trying to keep up with the Joneses. We're trying to do what's best for our life. And
Right.
We all have a story to tell.
Right. So if they're interested, they can go to swiftkickinass.com, and on there, on the website, you'll find a form where you can enter your information, your story, and submit it to us. And if we think that you're a good fit for the show, we'll contact you and we'll interview you.
Yeah, we wanted to create a number of options for you to reach out to us. So leave us a voicemail. There's a contact form. You can send us an email. Many different ways to get in touch with us, and we'd love to hear your stories.
Absolutely. So, John, today I'm a little sore because yesterday I organized a workout group with some families and some of my family members and some friends. I think there was 7 of us total, including my 11-year-old boy. And we all went over to one of my friend's house. I brought some equipment. He had some equipment. And we started a workout group. The main reason, because I have a membership to a gym. I do jiu-jitsu. I do other things, but I wasn't getting my butt into the gym. And I think one of the reasons is I don't have a training partner. So I thought, it's a great way to hold each other accountable. And by having a group, that way you're not just dependent on one person. You actually have several people. So if one person's not there, you don't have an excuse.
Yeah, I think it's a great way of showing that you can accomplish a specific goal in many different ways. Like you said, you couldn't get into the gym anymore. I find I have the same problem. So by organizing a group of people who have the same type of goal in mind, bringing them together, maybe even making it a cookout. I mean, yesterday I went to a birthday party, so I was at the pool, having some beer and birthday cake. So I got my workout, but in a different way.
Yeah, it's true because you create a social environment, and that way it actually makes it more fun. It's not you don't dread so much. You kind of look forward to going to a group. I know my wife Jennifer does CrossFit, and one of the things about CrossFit, why it's so successful and why it's past that tipping point and is taken off as a all over the country is because they're so encouraging. People when they go to a gym sometimes are very intimidated. What happens at a CrossFit gym is everyone's encouraging you and cheering you to work out. And they're when you're working out and you got 10 people sitting there cheering your name and clapping for you, it gives you a positive vibe and it helps the energy in the room and it just makes for a great social and workout.
Yeah, and I think that reminds me of a story that one of my friend's wives started doing the Zumba. And she was really apprehensive about going to this class and dancing in front of other people. But when she was at the gym, she saw the group of people doing the Zumba, and she quickly realized, hey, you know what? I can actually dance a lot better than most of these people out here. And that gave her the courage to go out there and get her groove on and kind of gave her confidence that she didn't have. We all, I think, stand in our own way a lot of the time, and we think to ourselves that we can or cannot do something. It has to be a certain way, and there are many different ways to approach a problem. So I'm all for it.
So one way that if you're interested in starting something for yourself, and say you don't have someone that you can, maybe you don't have family or friends close to you, you could always go to meetup.com. That's one of those places where you can find people that have the same hobby as you, because it doesn't necessarily have to be working out. It could be anything. And you could basically create your own support group. And they're already out there. No matter what you can think of, there's probably a group already in existence for it. And if not, then you can create it. And someone else that, shares your same goals and desires will probably reach out and contact you. And you guys can, be on your way to starting your own support group.
Yeah, and I think it's actually even easier than that. Of course, you can go to a website and look up people who have common interests. But how many of us, when we're just out and about doing our errands, going to the grocery store, dropping off dry cleaning, or whatever you're out doing, actually takes the time to sit and talk to somebody, just in casual conversation? I mean, my daughters always make comments to me about how, Daddy, you're always meeting new people. And it's just because I ask a question, I say hello, I break that ice and get talking to people. And when you talk to people, you learn more about them and they learn about you. There's sharing. And in this world of technology, everyone is so glued to their smartphones. We need to take the opportunity to become human and talk to each other rather than face to face. So in that conversation, you can learn a lot about somebody, and oftentimes you can run into people who have the same common interests as you do. And not saying you're guaranteed friendship out of doing that, but you open yourself up to it, so you're more likely to let it happen if you're open to it.
Absolutely. So John, yesterday, so when we warmed up, we did some weights, and I have this weight sled. Basically, you put weight on it and you push it. It's like a sled with no wheels, or
Okay.
or pushing a sled on, across across pavement rather than snow, and it's not really fun. I mean, I like it, but it drains you, and basically makes you feel like you want to puke after you do it. But where the parking lot that we chose to do it at happened to be Hollywood Hills Elementary. That was
Oh, really?
the elementary school that we both went to. Grades what? Kindergarten through fifth grade.
Hmm.
John and I both went there. In fact, it was the same parking lot where I had to dance the maypole. And I don't know if remember every year we had to dance this stupid. They would put a pole up and these ribbons, and you'd have to pick a partner, and there was probably what 10 kids on each pole, and they would intertwine, and the ribbon wraps around the maypole, and at the end of it, it's decorated.
I think the school, the teachers and the principal, they thought we were part of the Sound of Music. I mean, it was this dance where one went above, one went underneath, and you wove these cloths,
Tapestry of ribbon.
yeah, tapestry around a pole. Yeah, that made me want to throw up.
What I wanted to have for the show, but I just couldn't find it. I have a picture of me when I'm in fifth grade, and I'm dancing with this girl named Melanie. Now, Melanie was kind of a chubby girl with glasses and pigtails, and she was mean as hell. And she asked me to be the partner in the maypole, and I was like, why is she asking me? And she hates me, But I have this picture of my face. Looks like I just bit into a lemon dancing the maypole. Like it's the worst torture you could put a 10-year-old boy through. It's just hilarious. She, maybe she's a beautiful woman by now. I have no idea, but back then she just was so mean. Which maybe she liked me, and that's why she was so mean.
Yeah, I remember the maypole. I don't remember having a partner. I think of it like square dancing, but in a circle.
So you had to. You were in partners. You had a boy and a girl, and then you leave that partner and intertwine with everyone else, going in a circle.
Yeah.
Like a square dance, like you said. But yeah, you had a partner, and she was my partner.
So that's a good memory, Tom.
All right, so
not so much.
What we wanted to discuss today was disrupting the conventional belief of that the things that we get told when we're kids about growing up and getting a job and getting a pension or working for the same company and getting a gold watch at the end. We all know that corporations don't work that way anymore. I mean, you're lucky if you can stay at a job for a few years without getting blown out or always being under the threat of getting axed. And what brought this up is I was talking to my daughter's boyfriend. She's 17, he's 18, and he's been working at Menchie's, which is a yogurt shop. I imagine they're everywhere across the United States. I'm not really sure. I think they are. And anyways, he had worked like 29 hours. Or no, he worked 31 hours, and he was telling me on his paycheck they only paid him for 29. So he was like hesitant whether he should tell his boss or not. And so he finally did. And then the boss was like, well, you spent an extra half hour closing up, and you should have been out here at a certain time. Without giving him any guidelines, he started giving him all these reasons why he didn't want to pay him the extra hours that he worked. But the kid worked them, and the guy didn't want to pay. And I told him, I said, this is the introduction to what you might experience for the rest of your life. You're going to have bosses that are difficult to work for, and lots of times things are going to be unfair. But it brought up the idea. I was trying to get the idea of getting out of his mind of just doing a job where he trades, money for hours, and try to think bigger and try to think of, more like an entrepreneur. And one of the films I recommended to him was a documentary called The Corporation. Have you ever seen this, John?
No, I have not.
All right. Well, The Corporation, basically they had 40 interviews with CEOs and corporate spies, which I don't know how you become a corporate spy. That sounds actually kind of like a pretty cool gig. But they go through and they interview people that were in charge of pharmaceutical companies, tire companies, oil companies, big multinational corporations, and they start analyzing just like like if the corporation was a human, because what the whole premise is was mid 1800s, the corporation emerged as a legal person. So they imbued it with a personality because for the next 100 years, they saw how the corporation it rose to dominance. It became basically the staple in the America, if not the world. The foundation for companies, and how everything's changed. It's gone from mom and pops and small, one-off chains, stores to the big Walmarts and Home Depots, and you name it. There's some other company that will own another big huge company, and it's become so huge that it's become anti-personal. So what they did is they took a test, and they took all these psychiatrists and psychologists and had them evaluate the corporation as though it was a true person. And in the very end of all the interviews and all the tests that they ran through, they've determined that it was psychotic.
Yeah, it is. That doesn't surprise me. Does not surprise me.
Psychopath was the actual definition of the corporation, if it was a human.
The scary part about that, we can joke about having a psychotic corporation or a corporation that's a psychopath, but the truth of the matter is our economy, our American economy, is built on corporation. It is built on people working the 40-hour or more work week, so that we buy big houses, we buy expensive cars, we go out to dinner a lot. We have a very consumer-based economy, and that when people stop doing that, it hurts our economy. And I was reading just an article recently. I don't remember exactly where I read it, but it was talking about the corporation and the 40-hour work week, and about how the Great Recession that we are just coming out of right now has changed people's view of the world, and that we're looking for alternatives. You'll see movements such as the tiny house movement, which I absolutely love. Not that a 300 square foot house meets my lifestyle needs. I could just imagine my 3 kids and my dog and my wife all in this 300 square foot home. It's not going to work.
What I would like to see is you trying to convince your wife to move into that.
It's on wheels, so
it's a motor.
Well, without the motor. But yeah, I'd have.
They call those trailers.
I would definitely have a tough time convincing my wife. I think my kids would think it would be cool, but I recognize that doesn't meet my lifestyle needs. But this article was also talking about creating an ultra sustainable lifestyle and building an actual house that involved recycled materials. In fact, they showed the walls being built out of recycled tires, which have a huge, very high insulative quality, and building, pushing dirt up around the house, so it's very insulated. It has a rainwater collection system. You're growing your own food. And they start talking about how this house requires little electricity to run. You don't need heating and air conditioning because of the way it's built, so they have mechanical ways of doing that. And it reminds me of, whether we get ahead or we go backwards is based on a very simple calculation. It's income minus expenses equals a plus or minus. And that tells you whether you're getting ahead or you're going deeper in the hole. And with a house such as that, you have no electric bill, you can grow your own food, you become self-sufficient. And they were talking about how what that would do to our economy is, what if we all were self-sufficient? What if we didn't have the electric bill? What if we didn't have to have a huge grocery bill? How would your life change? I know mine would change considerably.
Our life would change, but imagine what it would do to our country. Because imagine, and the companies that supply us electricity, that supply us food, they don't want us to happen. It's just like the medical industry. You work in the medical industry, so you know that. And the insurance companies, there's so much money tied up there. There's even You know, like they talk I've seen many documentaries talking about, are there possible cures for cancer out there? You know, and because if they did cure cancer, what would that do to all the doctors, the oncologists, everyone that's makes money from that field, the pharmaceutical companies?
Yeah.
How would that change everything? I mean, it would crush them. It would destroy them.
Yeah, they say money is the root of all evil. That's what we've been taught, right? All of us have been taught money is evil. Money is not necessarily evil. It is a tool that we can use in order to survive. We all understand that there's it costs money to live. We have a cost of living. In fact, we get cost of living increase. And the cost is increasing year after year after year. But we're not really looking at the causes of why the cost is increasing and what we can do in our own lives in order to decrease our own cost of living. That's why I found that article so interesting is, imagine if you didn't have an electric bill. Imagine if you didn't have a huge food bill. There would not be a demand for you to work very hard. You wouldn't need to. You could survive without. And I think the recession has made a lot of people wake up to a new world and we all look at the world differently. I know that my father, who was a product of the Great Depression, he said he was actually very thankful for the recession, which made me really shake my head. Why are you saying this? And he said, well, this is Americans have had such a good time and a good track record of prosperity that we just stopped believing that there could be difficult times. And so if everything's good and you're not preparing yourself for the bad times are going to hit you very hard, and it's going to be difficult for you to survive. So
what's interesting about that is I'm reading right now David Goliath. It's not Malcolm Gladwell, I believe, is the author of Blank and Outliers. Anyways, basically it's talking about the David and Goliaths, everything from the underdogs and going up against big corporations and basketball teams. It gives an illustration of a girls basketball team that went all the way to the championships, even though the coach didn't know how to play basketball. But one of the things he talks about is, in this guy, he was an immigrant, and he grew up in the time, probably the same time as your father, through the Great Depression. And his dad would show him, hey, the light bill, when you leave electricity on, he'd show him the actual physical bill and say, this is how much it's costing for your laziness, right? So it kind of, he appreciated the money, and he was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. He told them how much it cost to buy food, so they didn't waste food. So he grew up with that mindset, and he was always out trying to, I think he started by raking people's driveways, and he would get other kids to rake it, and he would just organize it, and he'd collect the money. And then during the winter, he would do the same thing for snow. He'd clear off people's driveways. Well, this guy ended up becoming a millionaire and works in Hollywood now, right? But his children have grown up with just in the lap of luxury. They have everything they could possibly want, but they're missing that drive that he had. They don't have anything. He was hungry, so he had that drive. And they're talking about in the book how there's a fine line between, if it's too much poverty, if you're overwhelmed and you just feel hopeless. But if there's a little bit or mix, you still have ability to fight and find your way out of it, and that's what builds a strong character. But when you have too much of too much money or abundance, you get lazy and lethargic and overweight and everything else, which I think has happened to America in the past few years. And it's a wake-up call, and there's a fine line between how much do you really make and spend, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think I think that is very, very interesting. And if you really think about it, we don't make changes in our life until we need to make changes in our life. If you think back a couple podcasts ago, my sister, in fact, once I got married, I got married late in life, And my sister was talking to me on the phone, and she was saying, "Johnny, I'm so proud of you." And I said, why are you so proud? And she said, well, look at you. You're married now. You just got your first home. You have a steady full-time job. And then she kind of stopped and she says, you never really had to take life serious before. You didn't have a wife. You weren't starting a family. So you could go out and have fun. You didn't have those serious concerns. So I really didn't change until I needed to change, and I think most people are exactly like that. Now, I just read in the newspaper, or actually not the newspaper, because we know newspapers are a thing of the past. Read it online about Sting, from Gordon Sumner from the Police. He let it be known that his 6 children are not getting any money in his will. When he dies, he's not giving them a dime. And when I first saw the headline, I thought, that's Sting. He's really mean. But he went into an explanation just very similar to what Tom said. He grew up hungry. It drove him towards success, and he was successful because of that drive. He does not want his money to hinder his children, and it makes total sense to me.
So what's he going to do with his money?
I don't know. They didn't really say. I think he has a number of different charities that he gives his money to, and he's spending it with his wife. I think that's
Good.
I think that was the root of the article, is that they were just, they're telling their kids, don't expect any money. We're spending it all. It's going to be all gone.
Hey kids, suck it. It's funny when we were talking. When I was talking about Carlos, when I was giving him advice about his boss, and how basically you're going to have bosses like that. I forgot to mention to you, because I talked to you about this before the show, and I don't want to leave you hanging. I had this boss one time. I work in radio, and one of the markets I worked in was a little podunk market, and the boss was just a pain in the butt. And finally, I had enough. I was just like, I don't care. I'm moving out of this market. I'm burning the bridge, which you should not do, but I did, in a way. So what I would do every day is, I'm an engineer, so I had access to all the computers, basically everything that makes a radio station run. And I used to go into his office today, and on his desktop wallpaper, I would put a picture of a monkey. And the first one I put, he was a monkey holding a machine gun, and it said, "You've been hit with a stealth B monkey virus." Right? So he called me in a panic, and he goes, Tom, I got this virus. It's on my computer. I'm worried about my files. I go, no, don't worry. Your files are safe. I know all about that virus. I said, all it does is if you send an email to someone and they have a sound card, it's going to go, and he was like, okay. So, I said I cleared it off. Next day, I put a different picture, monkey on a tightrope with wearing a ballerina dress, right? Next day, I would put another one of a monkey dressed up as a clown. And I did this for a couple months. And finally, I made a mistake of sharing sharing it with one of the disc jockeys, and he ratted me out. But we had a talk about it, and we laughed it off. But it was
so you kept
my
your
way,
job.
I guess, to work out the frustration. Yeah, I was transferring anyways, so it taught me how to talk my way out of things. Not good advice. I don't advise people to do that to their bosses, but it damn well felt good.
Well, I know from my own work experience that I am not a yes person, and in fact, in one of my previous performance evaluations, my boss specifically mentioned. She said, "John, I really appreciate that you don't always agree with me, and you're not afraid to speak up, even when it goes against what I'm saying. You have to know how to stand up for yourself. When you don't, you get walked on. You don't get paid for your full amount of work, as well as people lose respect for you. And sometimes that's all we have is respect. So it's important to stand up, uh, stand by your convictions, stand up for what you believe in, because no one else is going to do that for you.
And if not, put monkeys on people's desktop.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of this past April 1st. My wife pulled a trick on me, and she went onto my computer and she changed the keyboard configuration so that when I would hit a T, it would pull up another letter like an R. And it was what she did is she changed the layout of the keyboard to like Ukrainian or something like that. And I'm like, what the hell?
You know, my daughter has my mischievousness, and she's hacked my wife's iPhone. So now whenever my wife tries to send a text out to people, it will say from Wonder Woman. And if she tries to send me a text, it says to Walter White from the Breaking Bad, because you know when I have a goatee, people always say I look like Walter White. So that's my daughter's favorite thing. She'll be taking. I was at Disney World not long ago, and she was taking pictures of me and posting them up on Instagram. Walter White waiting for Dumbo or something like that.
I thought you made her call you Heisenberg.
Yeah.
Say the name.
That's my alter ego. Say my name. It's getting towards the end of the show, but what I wanted to talk about real quick is we had stumbled across some great web-based goal-setting software, and this is not a pitch. This is something that we actually believe in and think it would be really good product for people to check out if they really want to make change in their life. Because John and I are both planning to take this bull by the horns and use it ourselves. And the features on this thing just go on. I mean, of course, you know, you could list features versus benefits. The benefit is if you use the software, you'll get shit done without a doubt. Because what it does is, you know, it allows you almost like when you're writing a business plan. It's not so much the plan that is important. It's the actual process of sitting down and writing a business plan to make you think out everything of how you're going to deal with, you know, problems of that arise in your business. Same thing with goal setting. You know, you can think in your mind. You say, hey, I want to do this, but if you don't have a way to hold yourself accountable and track it and be able to see results, lots of times it just won't get done. In fact, they've done us. There was I wrote this down because I thought this was cool. There's a research conducted recently by Dr. Gail Matthews, and what he shows is that when people write their goals down, they on average, and share it with a friend, which is our just like the accountability that we always preach. That on average, they're 33% more successful in accomplishing their goals compared to people that just thought about it or thought about it in their head and was like, yeah, I wish I could do this. So what this software does is it allows you to track your goals. It has an iPhone and an Android app, so you can carry it with you. It has a journal. It has accountability feature. So if I'm doing a goal or if I'm working on something for the podcast, I can have John see my goals, or it doesn't have to see every goal. I can determine whether I want him to see it or not. But it's it will send an email and so every time I progress, it will tell you, and then you can also review how I'm doing and give me feedback. So even for life coaches or for people going through AA or Weight Watchers or whatever, it's really, really cool.
Yeah, accountability is really so important. And think about it this way: when you work in with a team of people, and you're accountable for holding up one leg of the table, if you're not doing that, you have to answer to that team of people and tell them why you're not holding up your end of the bargain. That's a much more difficult thing to do than holding up the leg of the table like you're supposed to. I think a lot of time in life we know exactly what we need to do, but we don't ever get around to doing it. Accountability holds you accountable for doing it and getting it done. I think that's great, and I have seen it work in working out, having Tom as a workout partner, working with this show, holding people to task. It's extremely important. Try to take a look at that. We also have an old school Excel spreadsheet. It's a simple spending planner, out there, and it talks about it's a very simple way of putting in your income, your paycheck, comparing it to your expenses, and knowing, are you living above your means or below it? And without knowing where you stand, it's very difficult to move forward with financial goals. So we're going to be offering more and more tools to our listeners over time. We feel that just like money, it's important to have it. It's important to have tools that can help move you closer to your goals, get you where you want to be.
Absolutely. Well, with that, John, we probably we should wrap this up because we always promise to try to keep these, close to a half hour. We're a little bit past. We're about 37 minutes. But we want people to be able to listen to this in short chunks and digest it and think about what we've talked about and put some plans into action and make some change.
Yeah, and make sure you go to our website, aswiftkickintheass.com. Remember to put that A in the beginning. And we have voicemail, we have contact forms, we have email, many different ways to get in touch with us, as well as tools, as well as articles. We want to hear back from you. We want to hear about
inspiration. Even a gallery. Lately, we've been putting together song lyrics to like pictures and making memes out of them, just for a social media aspect. But it's kind of neat. We hadn't seen that out there. We saw, you always see quotes, the pictures, and funny things with cats hanging and mating people or whatever it might be. But we just tried to go a different avenue, and we tried to do song lyrics, and it's been pretty popular. And we put a lot of them on the gallery there. So if you want to check them out, please do. And if you like the show, spread the word. Give us a review in iTunes. And thanks for listening.
Visit us on Facebook as well.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That's good. All right, John. Thank you.
Okay, Tom. Until next time.